Oh, I commanded silence really, really quickly. Welcome, everybody, to the 2021 Bilingual Directors meeting. I can't believe we're in person, and it's just delightful to see all of you here. This is definitely a very left-leaning crowd, so I don't know what that means, but I just wanted to, we're just delighted to have you all here. We want to constantly remind you, please, please, please have your mask on. We are very cognizant of the issue of safety and health for everybody here, but I can't tell you enough on behalf of the IRC and our staff how absolutely thrilled we are that you're here and that you're at such a nice location as the Crown Plaza here at O'Hare. So I'm going to run through a couple of the announcements that you may or may not have seen on the scroll, and there might be some questions you might have that we'll try to get answers for you later on. So if you haven't already, make sure that you've checked in at registration. You'll make sure you'll be obviously getting the program, and there's a number of different books that we want you to pick up that we feel that are especially important for those of you who are new bilingual directors who are here. So we want to make sure that you pick those all up. I imagine most of you already have internet access. The password is bilingual, all in caps, so make sure that you can access that. It's fairly intuitive. I know most of us have been driving in today into the meeting. Please, you can pick up a voucher every day from the registration desk that you'll use in order to exit the parking lot. I am going to try and answer the question. We'll try to get an answer later on regarding those of you who are staying, because we haven't quite figured out if you'll also be using the same vouchers or not, but don't worry, we'll figure it out. I'm sure you've all noticed that you have dots on your badges, and what this means is that if you're a new director and confess that you were a new director, you're getting a blue dot on your badge. And if you're a director with 3 to 5 years of experience, you got a yellow dot. You get a red dot if you're an experienced director, which means 5 years till infinity. And then everybody else got a green dot. And so why do we put up those green dots? Because we want you to network with one another. So, and I have a feeling not everybody in this room today has a blue dot. So those of you who are more experienced, if you see a blue dot person looking puzzled or having a question, please make a new acquaintance with the blue dot person. And the same thing, blue dot people, don't feel free to go up and talk to other people with yellow dots, red dots. And some of us have green dots. We're just approachable all the time. We're just the biggest, friendliest bunch possible. So that's really it's a networking device that we're using for this meeting. If you're someone who loves to do social media, we have a hashtag for today's meeting. It's hashtag Illinois Bilingual Directors 21. And make sure to put that in. And again, it's hashtag IL in caps and then Bilingual Directors 21, all lowercase. So feel free to do that. You should be all aware that we're using Crowd Compass as the platform for the conference app, for the meeting app. And there's also a game on there if you were so inclined. And we even have prizes. I'm not going to tease you with what the prizes are, but there are prizes for participating in the Crowd Compass game. And you should have also, as part of Crowd Compass, seen that you can make one-on-one appointments with ISB consultants for this coming Thursday and Friday. If you haven't already made an appointment, you can go, again, on Crowd Compass to make an appointment with your ISB consultant, and there's even a link there if you're not quite sure who that is, who the person is. There is a limited number of slots, so it's possible that some very, very popular ISB consultants may have all their slots taken up, so you'll have to make arrangements with them at some other time. But that is something that you should avail yourself of, and that's for this coming Thursday and Friday. Don't forget to sign in and out through Crowd Compass, and you get there's a lot more information about all the bells and whistles related to Crowd Compass on the FAQs. Make sure that on Wednesday, if you're staying through Wednesday, participating through Wednesday, or even not, if today's your only day, On Wednesday, you'll get an evaluation form. We want to make sure that you fill that out because we certainly absolutely need to hear your feedback. And on Wednesday, you'll get an email with a link inviting you to fill out the ISBE evidence of completion form if that is something that you need. And so for those people who need the ISBE evidence of completion form, you'll get 10 hours. And then finally, if you're going to be here tomorrow and you're inspired to organize yourself and many other colleagues for an informal meeting, we have a few of these meeting rooms available for you to meet with other people. We have 3 other meeting rooms that I know of right now, between 4 and 5. Just make sure to reach out to Lindsay Ennett, who's on the IRC staff, or her email is here at leanet@centermail.org if you're interested in reserving a room. We will be listing it on Crowd Compass, so if it's something a little bit more informal that would be more appropriate for, say, a more recreational area of the hotel, I suggest you just organize that on your own time. But this is if you want to organize other fellow directors to meet with you or other people. So, and we'd be glad to post that. So I think that's it on my housekeeping items. So I want to introduce to you then, I want to call up to the stage our Chief Educational Officer. And in fact, I was just reminding him that it was 2 years ago when Ernesto Matias, freshly minted as the Chief Education Officer, came and gave a welcome to this group. So it's my pleasure again to introduce on behalf of the agency, Ernesto Matias. Thanks for coming, Ernesto.
Thank you. Buenos días, ¿cómo están todos? Bien? So I'm going to ask you a couple questions. If you are a Spanish-speaking bilingual director, if you yourself speak Spanish, can you stand up? Okay, have a seat. If you speak Polish, stand up. No? Huh?
I'm saying Polaco.
No?
I know. No.
What about Arabic? An Arabic speaker? How about, okay, one over there. How about Chinese, Mandarin speaker? No? What other languages do we have here? Italian. What about Italian?
What?
Okay, there's one. What about Urdu? Or Hindi? Gujarati. Okay, good. All right. What about French? Holy moly. Okay, we got to figure out, all the languages.
What about Latin, Ernesto?
It's a dead language. Oh, you're the Latin. I want to remind everybody why we're here. What do you think this chair represents? Represents all the students, but here's the deal. If we were to put a student here, we would have to take on them some bandages, right? The pandemic impacts on them, mental trauma. We would, if we had students here, the kids who are coming from Afghanistan, right? What stuff have those kids seen, right? It boggles the mind. If we had to put you guys sitting in this chair too, what have you gone through? And that's why I just appreciate the fact that each and every one of you guys came out today, in spite of the pandemic, in spite of these things that drive me crazy to have on. But you're here. We need human interaction. We need each other. We need to talk to each other, share ideas with one another. And so, just want to say that we appreciate each and every one of you. We know it's not easy. We know it's very, very difficult. We know that I need a microphone, even though my voice, they can hear me from China and I could never whisper, but still, I still need a microphone. But we know that, right? All of the issues that we're facing, it's very difficult. Every day there's something new. I happen to be able to talk to superintendents and principals, and I don't know how they do it. I don't know how we all do it, right? Because someone said last week in a principals meeting, the thing that bothers them is that our staff is so tired like it's May, and yet we were in September. And I think each and every one of in this room understand that. But in spite of that, you're here. So again, I just appreciate the fact that you're here, and I hope that you really get a lot out of the Bilingual Directors meetings. And I would say this, and the last thing, you're only going to get as much as you put in. If you're an introvert, try to come out of that a little bit so that you can interact with others. You might find that they're doing some things that are really interesting that you might be able to bring back to your district. And if you're out there, you know, try to listen to see what other ideas there are. But together we can get this done. And so I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Continue the good work on behalf of Dr. Ayala. Muchísimas gracias a todos. And back to Josie. Yes.
Thanks, Ernesto. Thanks so much. And I could hear you just fine up here. So, but perhaps in the corner, they couldn't hear. So, Ernesto's booming voice and that. So, without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce to you Joanne Clyde. Now, I met Joanne. I think it was in February of 2020. I, by sheer coincidence, happened to be at the state board, and I wanted to meet the new director of multilingual. And so I burst into her office without, and for those of you who know me, I certainly did not make an appointment to see Joanne, and introduced myself because I happened to be at a meeting, and was just delighted to see her that at that beginning of the pandemic. Well, no, we didn't even know the pandemic really existed. We were kind of hearing rumors about it, right? And so literally the next month, everything started shutting down. So I can't tell you how delightful it is for me to actually be with Joanne again in person since 18 months ago when I ran into her office and started badgering her about different topics. And so Joanne's going to be leading this afternoon's session for new directors. So take it away, Joanne.
Thank you very much. I am excited that you are all here, and it is not just going to be the Joanne show. So a little bit about myself, though. I am going to take a few minutes. Prior to coming to ISB, I was the bilingual director in Tinley Park for 5 years. Prior to that, I taught ESL bilingual for about 10. So I've been in the field for quite a while. I know what it feels like to be a brand new director and to not know. I knew what ESL bilingual instruction looked like, but what do I do as a new director? What is my role exactly? What forms do I need to fill out? How do I pay for all this? There are so many questions that we all have. So we're hoping that this introductory session will help answer some of those questions for you. Now, it's not just going to be me. I have my team, some members from my team here. So throughout the afternoon, you will hear from me, you'll hear from Tamara, Sang, Penny, and Trevor. Some of them may be your assigned principal consultant. Every district has a principal consultant in the multilingual department assigned to help them. If you don't know who they are, there's a list on our website. Call us. We are happy to talk to you and answer your questions. So let's start with the presentation. We are going to be using a program called Mentee to get some feedback. So if we could please put the slideshow up so everyone can see. Please go to mentee.com on your devices and use the code 7851555. And then describe your ELs in 3 words. And we'll take about 2 minutes to do this. Again, go to www.mentee.com and use the code 7851555. And your responses should start showing up here. I see some amazing descriptions, including collaborative, curious, creative, eager. I also see some heartbreaking ones. Impoverished, underrepresented, intimidated. These are some amazing descriptions of our English learners. Diverse, hopeful, collaborative, resilient. Thank you. These are our students that are in that chair that Dr. Matthias pointed out. We're going to do another mentee quiz. This one's a little harder to read, but I'll explain what's on the bottom. How would you describe your role with regards to English learners at your district? Are you a district level administrator? Main duties are EL programming. Are you a district level administrator that oversees multiple programs? Are you a school administrator? You have your building and you do EL. Are you a school administrator with no specific EL duties and you're just kind of here for the CPDUs, which is awesome if you are? Are you the EL coordinator? You're not an administrator, but you've got more duties than a teacher. Or again, are you an EL bilingual teacher that you're also here for the CPDUs? I think from this response, we've got a pretty diverse group of EL people too. Some of you are district level administrators who just focus on ELs, but some of you have multiple duties. We have school administrators who are overseeing a full school and the EL programs for the district. We got EL coordinators, a lot of them, and then EL bilingual teachers. So thank you for that. All right, so our agenda for the day, we've kind of handled our introductions. We're going to be talking about some rules and regulations, identification and placement, assessments for program eligibility, program design, staffing, reporting responsibilities, funding resources, record keeping, and then other resources. Now, this presentation, the PowerPoint, we will be sharing with everybody on Crowd Compass at the end of the day today, because we've got to pull all the mentee quizzes out of it. But it will be posted in the Crowd Compass app, so you'll have access to it. There are links in the presentation to almost all the resources that we reference. So you will have that. So I'm going to actually turn over the clicker to Tamara, who's going to walk us through some rules and regulations. So thank you.
Is it okay if I take off my mask? Good afternoon, everybody. How are you today? Give me a thumbs up if you're happy to be here. Welcome to the 2021 Bilingual Directors Conference. I was just in your seat 2 years ago, so I know exactly what it's like to be in your shoes, and we are here to support you in any way. If you have questions, if you have concerns, if you are the lone man ranger fighting for your EL program and people are not responding to you and the rules and regulations that you are presenting to them, call us. We'll guide you through the process. I have been in your position. All of us here have been in your position, and we are here to support you. We know what you have been through. So I just want you to close your eyes for a minute, and I want you to think about the past 2 years of your life. I want you to think about the lunches and dinners that you've served to your families, the home visits, the many phone calls and emails and text messages, your own personal time given for your families who need you so badly. Think about your kids who have gone under the radar, and you're the only one who reaches out to their family. Think about the constant number of classroom teachers coming to you guys saying, our kids are not doing their work, they're not studying online. What do I do? That's you. That's your role. You are the heroes sitting in this room. You are the ones who have done it the past 2 years. And if educating students is not hard enough, now imagine a pandemic added to it. So when you get stressed and when you get overwhelmed, I want you to think about what you've been through the past 2 years and know that you can overcome anything. And it's okay to sit there and cry sometimes. It's okay to hide in your classroom during lunch and say, I need 30 minutes to just decompress. Know that you're doing the right thing. Know that you are advocating for your students and families, and that you have a whole team from ISB here to support you who've been in your shoes at the same time. So please pick up the phone, call us, talk to us about your concerns. Okay, let's start with some state rules and regulations. If I were able to click on these, I'd be able to show you the exact website. However, because of Mentimeter, I'm not actually able to click on these links. But as Joanne stated, we'll be able to present these to you at the end of our presentation. So our team at ISB is very similar to what you do. We have to refer to these sections of code daily. And when people call us and email, this is exactly what we go to. So please refer to these documents in your admin meetings and your family meetings, your BPACs, everything that you do with bilingual education. Please refer to these docs, like the Illinois School Code, Article 14C, the Dear Colleague letter, representing teachers across the nation who are working with bilingual students, Illinois Administrative Code Title 23. The 228 is what we use every single day when we get a phone call. And when you click on these links, you can present these at your staff meetings, at your professional development seminars, and anything that you do with families so that they can understand why you are asking for your EL bilingual rules to be in place. So let's start from the beginning. Why do we have bilingual education? Why is this so important? Well, as you know, California has a large EL population. So back in 1973, there was a state court case called Lau versus Nichols. And you know that you've studied it in all your ESL bilingual classes through the years. This case came to head because there were Chinese immigrant students who were only being instructed in English. And so there was a huge court case that represented over 2,800 students saying these children need services. You cannot just put them in English-speaking courses and expect to have high results. Therefore, obviously we know the court case won, and we are legally having to provide EL and bilingual services to our students. Our students deserve to have meaningful opportunities to participate in school classrooms. This went against the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which is something that you see every day with Black Lives Matter. So this went back over 60 years at this point, and we are still fighting today for our ESL bilingual students. Keep up the fight. Another court case that happened in the late 70s through 81, which is already 40 years old. Castaneda versus Pickard. In Texas, they had another rule, and you know you live this every single day, where they said, okay, fine, because of Lau versus Nichols, we do have bilingual programs in place. However, now our students are basically discriminated against because now they only have classes with those students and they only have exposure to these classes and these courses. Now they don't see anybody else except those students. You know this life, you live it. We all have been here and we know your stress. There is a court case that you can refer to when your parents contact you about this situation. And we encourage you to talk about this and say, we need to have fine arts like PE, music, art, before and after school activities, clubs, translated meetings, IEPs, everything provided for our ESL bilingual families because of this court case. Our students need to have the same rights and regulations as every other student. And just because they are an ESL or bilingual program does not mean that they are not entitled to all of those programs. So if people try to argue with you or talk to you about saying, why is my child in a first grade bilingual classroom with the same students all the way through high school, show them this court case and show them that you have proven rights to make sure that they are involved in every other facet of the school community. Here are the 3 factors you need to look at. Our students deserve a sound educational theory. It needs to be implemented effectively with adequate resources and personnel, which, as you know, is our number one thing right now, getting right personnel. And we need to be evaluated to overcome our language barriers. Unfortunately, the original language from this court case actually said language disabilities, which you know none of us would ever use that term for our students. But we can change this now to language barriers. So as you heard, the ISB offices have now moved to 555 Monroe as of last week. Joanne and our team had so many laughs, which were not unfounded, due to the number of ESL bilingual workbooks, binders, textbooks, things that we have found regarding these 2 court cases over the last 40 years that were sitting in ISB drawers. We had quite a few photos that we took and just evidence to prove that there are people all like us who have been fighting for ESL bilingual students since these court cases came to play. So when you can't sleep at night because you are fighting against your school district or your parents and trying to be an advocate for them, remember that we are in your court and you are just like the 40 to 50 years of people who've done it with you. Do not give up the fight. So if you wouldn't mind, please refer back to your device, mentee.com, type in code 7851555. This is a pretty simple one. Does a school district violate the 14th Amendment or the Civil Rights Act of 1964 if you fail to provide ESL or bilingual classes? I like the Give me a thumbs up if you're like, yes, of course. That thumbs up right there is why you're here today, because you will continue being that advocate for your students. So of course the answer is yes. And I want you to present this to your staff meetings and admin meetings to say, if we do not do this, we are violating the 14th Amendment and the Civil Rights Act. This is very serious, and you want to make sure that you are an advocate for your students at all times. Now we're going to pass it back to Joanne, and she's going to tell us about identification of EL students. If you have any questions, please contact us anytime. Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to refer to Trevor. Trevor was the bilingual director in Beardstown before coming to ISB, and he is our one multilingual member in the Springfield office.
Continue the pattern here, taking this off. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Again, we are so happy to see you all in person, and can't wait to maybe see some of you just individually and talk to you. Let's continue on. We have quite a few things to go through. We're going to be talking about identification of ELs, and this is probably the foundation in which your program is built, because if you don't have ELs that you have identified, then you don't really have a program, of course. So the identification process we're going to be talking about is the different components, the Home Language Survey, or HLS, the language proficiency test that we use, or that's prescribed, and that's what is used to find the proficiency level of a student, the initial proficiency level, and then what program placement they eventually go into after you have identified them or they qualify for services. and then how we are supposed to send notification to parents indicating that they are in programming. Two critical steps in the identification of ELs. Districts shall and they must administer the home language survey for every student enrolling in the public school. The home language survey is the main tool in which a district can identify a potential EL. And then districts shall administer an individual screener for English language proficiency to each of those students who are identified through the home language survey. This is an example of a home language survey that was developed at ISB, just to kind of give you an idea of the elements that should be on the home language survey. The two main questions, which are spelled out in rules and in Article 14C, I believe, that should not be altered. And the first one is a language other than English spoken in your home. And then the second one, does your child speak another language other than English? And then to seal the deal, the parent needs to sign and date the HLS. This is a binding document that starts the process, and it starts your trigger for evaluating or not a student. So the HLS is to be completed by the parents as they enter the school, and it should be delivered in a language that they can understand. And if not, then someone needs to be there to kind of help walk them through, what this means. And then typically, let's see. We do have a little explanation at the top, and on the home language surveys that you make in your district, it would be good if you supplied the reason for why a home language survey is implemented, and then if a child is identified, then what occurs after that. So it kind of gives full disclosure. Back to the actual answer. If the parent answers yes to either of the questions on the HLS, then the student is a potential EL, and then they're screened. If the answer is no to both questions, both have to be no, then the student is not a potential EL and they do not need to be screened. So this screening after identification needs to be done within 30 days. And then after the result is, found out, then we have to then we have to send notification to parents. Okay, so we'll start off with the actual screening process now. For pre-K students, they have a kind of a separate group of tests that are we have several examples on our website and of vendors that districts can go through to purchase the tests to identify those students whose parents answer yes on the home language survey in pre-K when they enter pre-K at 3. And then there are also other school screening procedures as well, and these 7 items need to be considered as you administer a screener to young children. Okay, this is another mentee quiz. If you could put in the number. If your district has a pre-K program, what assessment is used for potential young ELs? Oh, we have a little blip. And we have the other. Oh, this is interesting. Okay, I think most of us are on the pre-IPT side because I think initially we being ISB, recommended the pre-IPT for a very long time. Then we backed off of that because there were other vendors that supplied equally effective identification assessments. And this is very interesting. We do have some pre-loss folks and it could be the checklist that the district has devised. So that we have on our website, we have the pre-IPT, the pre-loss, and then some districts do use the Woodcock-Munoz language survey in English as well. And those are the three that we know of. And then please give us a ring if you come across a different one, and then we can take a look at it and then put that up on as an example on our website too. So thank you for participating in that. Okay, so now apart from pre-K, they are not in the WIDA group of testing. That's totally separate. It's when they enter kindergarten that they enter the WIDA products, or the WIDA suite of tests that they produce. WIDA is a consortium that includes 41 states, 2 territories, and 2 federal agencies, and we are a part of that. Recently, Washington State, they became a WIDA state just this year. So any of the states in orange, if you receive a student from any of those states, we observe the screener that they've taken or the access test. So, keep this in mind as we go through. We'll kind of clear some things up here. But WIDA is the developer of all the tests and screeners that you administer to K through 12 students and K through 12 ELs. So here in Illinois, currently we use the WIDA model for kindergarten, and that includes the kindergarten roundup that typically happens in the early spring or in the summer before kindergarten, and it's usually done during that period of time, and only the speaking and listening domains are administered to those kiddos in the first semester kindergarten. And then that's a 5.0 proficiency composite that we're looking for proficiency. And then as they move through the grades, or as you move through the grades to determine who needs the screening, kindergarten second semester and first grade first semester, they take the model, but they take the full battery. And then there's the 5% overall, as well as the 4.2 in literacy that needs to be considered for those children. And then finally, the first grade second semester through 12th grade, we have the WIDA screener that's either online or on paper, and they take all 4 domains. And the 5.0 is still the minimum proficiency on the screener. So this is our screening tools that we use, or that are to be used, and they feed into what will be the access. So you've determined that the student needs to be screened, or they have some information that maybe they don't need to be screened because they've been screened before, or they have access results, and possibly they've been already identified as proficient using the access or a screener. Okay, and the big thing to remember is that there's a 12-month life on these determinations. And if it's beyond 12 months or there's a gap of years, you might have to rescreen the student if that's necessary. But if they've demonstrated proficiency before, you don't need to administer the screener, and they are a former EL. And then the last one in blue here, that's a link there that will be live on the PowerPoint once you receive it. It's this information here. This is another exception. And this is if a student is identified as speaking another language in the home, but they were never identified before, and they never received any EL services. And then also they did not, they weren't identified in the other district either, of course, and then they wouldn't receive services, and they must have passed or must have attained a meet or exceeds on the reading and math of the most recent state assessment. So all of these 4 criteria need to be met before there would be an exemption. Okay, and this is in rules too. So what Tamara was talking about looking over your rules, this is in there, and it's fairly clear. And if you need some help with interpretation, you'll just give us a call. Parent notification. Yes.
How would we code that? Because we have to enter now into SIS all the information.
Mm-hmm.
So how would we code that exception? Because they're triggered in the system.
There is a code for that. Yes, and I cannot remember what it is. I think it's I think we labeled it the 228, I thought. I'd have to double check on that. But we coded it specifically for this. I think it was other state assessments. I think that's what it used to be, but I'm not sure what we changed it to now. But there is a code for that. Call us and we'll tell you. Yeah. So the student has been identified, has been screened, has been determined to need services. So the next thing is to notify parents. And also you notify parents if they've been deemed proficient or don't qualify for services, and you share with them that information. So the notification needs to go home in English and the language of the home. And I should back up to the home language survey. There are over 40 different languages of the home language survey that are on our website that you can use to help convey the importance of the home language survey to those non-English speaking parents. And then the notification letters are also in about 40 other languages as well, to give you a head start on building your library of program placement letters. These letters should be sent home 30 days after the beginning of school year or 14 days after the enrollment in a language program during the school year. And then on the forms, they need to explain what supports that you will be giving the students in your programming. Also, there must be a phrase that they do have a right to withdraw their student or refuse services. So those elements must be on that form. And again, we do have those examples on our website. And there is a link on the actual presentation once it becomes live. So we do have again several templates, examples on our website of notification levels, letters that indicate the first initial identification, less than 3 years in program. Beyond 3 years has to have a parent signature. We have the program descriptions of the different program designs. We have an exit letter. If we don't have it, we will soon have it. Are they live yet? Not quite yet. Okay. And then we also will have eventually a preschool letter. So these are the notification letters that we will be having on our website. Most of them are on there. Okay, So you've identified, you've placed the student. January rolls around. January is the crazy time when we give the access for ELLs, and that is in online form or paper form. And kindergarten is strictly paper, and grades 1 through 12 are online or paper. We also have the alternate access. We'll just show you a few little screenshots and a little bit of information on each one of those. Access for ELLs, all K-12 English learners take the ELP assessment, and that will be in 4 domains: in listening, speaking, reading, and writing. It's a summative measure of English growth. And the general window is usually around January and February. This year has been extraordinary, to say the least. The minimum proficiency continues to be a 4.8 composite overall. And all test administrators must be trained on the instrument. We also have the alternate access, and this is for ELs with significant cognitive disabilities. And we do have a flow chart or a decision-making tree that helps IEP groups to determine if a student qualifies for the alternate access, and that's on our website. Again, test administrators must be trained on this, and it is available only in grades 1 through 12. We have kindergarten alternate access that is still being developed. And then the exit criteria is also being developed too. We're hopefully going to release that in the next months. And then to get trained on how to administer the screener and the summative assessment access, you need to have an account with the WIDA Secure portal, and then as a director, you would be able to give your staff, as many staff as you need, rights to get trained on the portal and to administer both the screener and or the access. You all can be able, if you are the coordinator of your testing, then you can monitor the training status of your staff. And the big thing is the professional development piece that comes with this. Along with the training, which is professional development, there are webinars and e-learning that you can sign up for. And then additionally, there's English learner resources on this website. And then there's WIDA AMS, and that is the testing platform for both screening online and access testing. Again, test administrators must have an account, and as a director, if you're leading this charge, then you will be able to make accounts for your staff. And then a technology coordinator is initially evolved because of the setup. If your district hasn't set up for online delivery of the screening and testing, then the technology coordinator can help set up on the computer system at your district, how that is, they can kiosk the different devices in which the students will interact with the test. And again, this is for grades 1 through 12. Kindergarten is all paper. And then on this, you can add students, set up test sessions, and produce test tickets to assess your students. Okay, and then exit-wise, once we're going to talk a little bit just briefly about exiting students and how they're exited and things to consider. Students who exit the programming EL programming must achieve an overall composite of 4.8. And I miss, the letters aren't musty, I promise, they aren't. An exit letter must be sent home as well as placed in the student file. The local student this is a very important, the third bullet here is very important, that the student's EL indicator must be turned to no, okay? Because that's very important, because oftentimes districts that kind of say, oh, yay, you know, they reclassified, but then they don't bother to change that indicator. And then after a year, they might be pulled back into testing again if that indicator is not changed. And then, of course, the district must monitor and document the former EL student's transition for 2 years to ensure that language services are no longer needed. The Student Information System, or SIS, will update students' EL indicator to EL no automatically. And again, this is for only 1 year, and that's why it's so important that districts change their internal local system to EL no too, so it coincides and they're locked in for the rest of their career at your school as EL no once they reclassify. And the student will be a former EL in the SIS report. And then if you have any questions, again, reach out to your principal consultant. We also have the numbers of WIDA and DRC, which is the WIDA AMS information, just some contact information there. And then also, I failed to place on here Barry Pedersen. He's out of the assessment department, and he oversees and coordinates the access test. So remember that name too, Barry Pedersen. Okay, I'll hand it over to Joanne for programs. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to follow the lead. Okay, it's a lot of information you have gotten so far about the laws that we need to follow and how to identify and place students. This is just a basic surface level introduction for everybody. Obviously, we could spend all day talking about every single one of these topics. So if you still have questions, please reach out to your principal consultant or snag one of us when the meeting is over, and we'll be happy to answer. On a side note, Barry Pedersen will be presenting tomorrow on the access. One of the sessions, the breakout sessions, will be about access test. So, programs. You have identified your English learners, and now you need to put them in a program. So what kind of programs do we have? So I want to know what kind of programs your district offers. Push in, pull out ESL, and you can choose more than one, because I know there are districts that have multiple options. Push in, pull out ESL, push in, pull out bilingual, self-contained ESL, self-contained bilingual, dual language, a combination. You might have some bilingual classrooms. That's awesome. So a vast majority of everybody in this room have a combination of programs. That's great. That's also more complicated for you as a bilingual director, because now you need to pay attention to all of the different little rules for each of those. So one thing that we're going to talk about is program models. Now, at the state, you're going to report what kind of programs you have, and the first thing you're going to report is the program models. And it's whether it's TBE or TPI, or if the child is a parent refusal. Those are the three program models. TBE is your transitional bilingual education. It's required when 20 or more students share the same home language. I'm sorry, it should have said 20 or more English learner students, because that is a key difference. 20 or more English learner students share the same home language in a school building. The actual term we use is attendance center. So you might have 30 French speakers, but if only 10 of them are ELs, you do not need to have a French TBE program. If you have 30 French students, but 20 are ELs, then you need a TBE program. You may offer a TBE program when you have fewer than 20 English learners, and preschool is counted separately. Okay? So in your attendance center, if you have a preschool program, those preschool students do not count towards your TBE TPI designation for K and up. If you have 20 or more preschoolers, then you need a TBE preschool program. Kind of make sense? I see some nodding. All right. Your TPI program, notice the wording, may be offered instead of TBE if you have 19 or fewer students, ELs, sharing the same language. The default in school administrative code is bilingual education. And schools are given permission to not provide bilingual education if they have fewer than 19 or fewer. Okay? Now, let's say you have 20 this year, and next year you have 17, and then you go to 21, and then you go to 17 again, and you're bouncing back and forth. When you hit bilingual, stay in bilingual. Don't drop your bilingual classes and fire your bilingual teachers to go back to ESL instruction and then bring them back in the next year. Don't bounce around. That's not healthy for your students. Please be consistent. Parent refusals are marked when parents are refusing English learner services completely. Districts are still required to assess with the access test until the students demonstrate English proficiency. Parents have the right to refuse the bilingual services, but they can still accept the EL, the ESL instruction. They would not be marked as a parent refusal then, because they're still getting some EL services. Okay? Yes?
Do we need to get that in writing if they decide that they want ESL only?
Yes, please. And that's actually the key. That's an awesome question. Should we get it in writing? Yes. Document everything. When you make a programmatic decision about your students, make sure it's documented. Yes, ma'am. I'm going to actually defer to Sang, who's been with us for a very long time.
Can you hear me? Okay, if you are getting a refusal letter from the parents, each and every year when the student took the access and the access result come back saying that the student still is an EL, you are required to notify. Now there is in the notification letter to the parents saying that your child will continue to be receiving the services that he received previously. But if you want to enroll your child in a TBE or TPI program, you still have the rights to do so. And it depends on how you word on your notification. You can word that if you want to enroll your child, send us the request. If not, then we will continue to enroll your child based on what. But you are responsible to notify the parents each and every year that the child is still eligible for the services.
So I'll reword. Yeah. So your parent has refused services. When you get the access scores, you send a note. Your child still qualifies. If you would like to enroll your students back into TBE, TPI, you are welcome to do so. Otherwise, their placement's going to stay the same. You know, you've refused, they'll stay refused. But you have to make sure you're wording it correctly, and if you have any doubt, contact your principal consultant. Okay? All right. Instructional designs. Within the program models, we have instructional designs. So again, you will be reporting this for every student that you have, for every EL you have. You're going to tell us what instructional design are they enrolled in. For the purpose of ISB, there are only 6. In reality, your dual language two-way may look completely different from the neighboring district's dual language two-way. The 6 instructional designs are dual language two-way, where you have native speakers of English and native speakers of the target language in the same classes together, with the goal of full literacy in both the target and English. You might have a dual language one-way, which are English learners and native language speakers in a bilingual program. So you might have Spanish-speaking English learners and Spanish heritage language learners all in that one classroom, but not your non-Spanish-speaking students learning Spanish. The goal, again, is full literacy in both home and English. You might have TBE self-contained. English learners from the same language background, self-contained in their own classroom all day. They still need to have access to all of the benefits, the special classes, PE, lunch, everything, clubs with their English-speaking peers. But this would be like if you have a self-contained kindergarten classroom, that's your TBE Spanish kindergarten. Instruction is in both the home language and in English. You might have TBE collaborative. This is where your bilingual instruction is provided through co-teaching or push-in, pull-out. You might have TPI self-contained. Again, that might be an ESL kindergarten. Some districts have so many languages that they don't have enough for a bilingual classroom, but they need to provide a kindergarten classroom that's supported for all those English learners. So that would be a TPI self-contained. Or you might have TPI collaborative. Again, E-English instruction or EL services is provided through co-teaching, push-in, or pull-out models. Most of you indicated you have a combination. So you have some students who are only receiving TPI. You have some students who are in TBE. You might also have a dual language program. Every student is individually reported to the state what type of instructional design they are participating in. Just want to make sure I check my notes, covered everything. All right, level of services. There is nowhere in code how many minutes a student, English learner services, student is supposed to get in services. That's a special education term, minutes. What you do need to do is report to us the level of services each child is getting. High, moderate, low, or none. Now, when we are reviewing your bilingual service plans, when we're reviewing your grant applications, when we're looking at your data, if we see that you have a very large number of newcomer students who are at an English proficiency level of 1.5, and they're all getting low services, we're going to have questions. We might contact you and say, hey, what's going on? Because we all know that one class period per week is not sufficient to help a newcomer student learn English, and therefore there might be a violation of Castaneda versus Picard. A class period for this is defined as bell to bell for a departmentalized program like a middle school, or 30 minutes in like a self-contained third grade classroom. And I skipped the quiz. I talked too fast. We'll do it again. All right, true or false? The amount of minutes for EL services written into law and rules. I am very happy. I am very happy that you all internalized that. Thank you. It does make it harder though, doesn't it? You're talking to your principals, well, how many minutes should this kid get? And it's like, well, based on the, no. I want to know how many minutes. It's so hard that it's not written into rules, but that's how we live. So, you may hear full-time versus part-time TBE. That is not dealing with the amount of minutes. We're not talking about somebody's a full-time worker versus a part-time worker. It has nothing to do with how much time, what their level of services is. Full-time versus part-time is based on how much instruction is in their native language. So a full-time TBE student is going to be a student who has an English proficiency level of less than 3.5. They're going to be receiving instruction in the home language and in English in these core subjects: language arts, math, science, social studies. They're going to receive ESL instruction and instruction in the history and culture of the country, territory, or a geographic area that is the native land of the students or of their parents, and in the history and culture of the United States. All of this is part of a full-time program. I hear some of you going right now, I've only got 3 kids that qualify for a full-time TBE program. How am I going to do this? A full-time program doesn't mean that they're in a self-contained 4th grade class learning math, science, social studies, and language arts in Tagalog. It means that there's instruction and support in the native language in those core instructions, core classes. So you might have a bilingual para providing some support. Now, paras do not count as services, but you can use paras to provide support. You might have a native language teacher that will pre-teach or reteach and touch on each of these core subject areas throughout the week. Now, if you have 100, I'm making up a number, right? If you have a lot of students from the same native language background in the same grade level, we at ISB would expect to see a self-contained classroom. But we understand that different situations will mean different levels of support. So if you have a question, ask us, contact us, we will help you. I hope that is internalized also. Please reach out to your principal consultant. TBE part-time is typically an English learner with a proficiency level of 3.5 or higher. Components of that full-time program will be present based on the student's need. So you have a student who's maybe getting a 4.0 and then all of a sudden they're really struggling with the US Constitution. You might pull them aside, do some pre-teaching and reteaching in Spanish, and they've got it, they move on. You're providing the native language supports as needed for a part-time student. And they're still getting their ESL instruction. Yes, Trevor. Thank you. Yeah, so the 3.5 is for literacy. We will make these corrections. We will change musty to must. We will fix all these little tiny errors, and we will, when we share the presentation, it will be correct information. So yes, it is a 3.5 in literacy for part-time TBE. Below, yeah, full-time is below that. Now, on our website is this form, which I know is really ridiculously small on your screens, but this is the part-time TBE rationale form. This is how you are documenting, document, why a student is not receiving full-time bilingual services. There's a place on this form to mark, well, they're meeting that minimum level of English proficiency for a part-time program. That one's easy. But there's other options on here. Their native language proficiency. You've assessed them in Spanish, and they don't have any literacy in Spanish. A full-time Spanish program, then, for this 4th grader is not going to be beneficial. Their academic performance in subjects taught in English is fine. There's no supports, and they're passing their classes, and they're doing well. They probably don't need full-time instruction in their native language. The students with disabilities, if the IEP team has met and determined that a part-time placement is probably going to be better for the student, you could document it here in addition to the IEP. Limited instructional materials. Maybe you have a population of GA speakers. I am not aware of any instructional materials in the United States in GA. We're not going to make you try to find them or try to get them or to teach teach social studies in GA if there's nothing that exists in GA. So you would have to document that. Again, if you have a question about any of this, contact your principal consultant. We are here to help. Your transitional program of instruction is what's traditionally been known as ESL. Native language support, our instruction, is provided to the greatest extent necessary, and it's based on the children's need. So, regardless of whether you have a TBE or a TPI program, these are some of the required components. The curriculum needs to be aligned to standards. We have the English Language Development Standards for Illinois, which most people know as the WIDA standards. Our current standards for Illinois are the 2012 version. WIDA has come out with a 2020. However, our standards are written into school administrative code, and they cannot be changed until we change the code. So the official standards are the 2012. We are hoping that we'll be able to move to the 2020 soon. But for this year, for sure this year, continue to use the 2012 standards. Spanish language arts standards for TBE Spanish programs. We currently have some Spanish language arts standards dating back to, I think, 2005. If you can find them, they're the ones you're supposed to be using. But we do have official new Spanish language arts standards that are in the process of being approved. So hopefully we will have nice brand new standards that are aligned to our Illinois learning standards soon. And we're hoping to be able to make that announcement at some point in the future. If you have a self-contained classroom, then there is a student-teacher ratio. 90% of the average of the general education classrooms for that grade. All right, so if the average class size for third grade in your school is 20, then a self-contained TBE or TPI third grade class should not exceed 18. However, once the school year gets going, we're not going to make you keep rebalancing everybody. So what's the date saying? After October? After September 30th, if you have move-ins, they can move into that classroom. All right, so at the beginning of the year, that 90% rule is the one you should follow. We do not have state recommendations for caseloads. Placement with students of approximately the same age and grade. Appropriate differentiated instruction for multi-grade classes. You can provide services in multi-grade classrooms, but you have to differentiate. Participation with English-speaking peers in subjects in which language is not essential to understanding. Those are your specials, art, music, PE, all your fun classes. Clubs, lunch, recess. Your English learners need to have access to all those things just like your gen ed students do. Comparable facilities. not a closet, not under the stairs, not in the basement behind the boiler. Comparable facilities. Students should receive course credit for participation in TBE, TPI programs, and they need access to extracurricular activities. Another requirement, if you have a TBE program, you must have a bilingual parent advisory committee. If you have a BPAC in your district, please rate these statements. And you have a slider. My BPAC is self-sufficient and can run itself. I know who my BPAC members are, and they regularly attend meetings. The BPAC currently plays an important role in my district. The BPAC provides valuable insight and guidance for the EL program in my district. Okay. So we're closer to the disagree that we do agree. These are ultimately the goals. Your BPAC should be self-sufficient. They should be running themselves. You should have regular BPAC members who attend your meetings regularly. I was in a district where we struggled so much to get parents to be part that every meeting we had a different BPAC member. And anyone who showed up went on the list as a BPAC member, whether they knew it or not. Because it was so hard to get parents. The BPAC, when running well, can really be a resource for your district and can provide valuable insight and guidance, and that is the ultimate goal. Now, the Bilingual Parent Advisory Committee, if you're required to have one, must meet 4 times per year. You must keep minutes for the meetings. Your BPAC should receive training from the district so that they can make informed decisions. The BPAC is supposed to participate in planning, operation, and evaluation of the programs. They're supposed to review the bilingual program plans submitted to ISB. And the committee operates autonomously, including the election of officers and the establishment of internal rules and procedures. "50% or more of the BPAC members must be parents of current English learners in bilingual programs." This is actually a challenge for districts that have well-established dual language programs. They have parents that are so enthusiastic about being part of the BPAC, but not enough are parents of English learners. 50% or more must be parents of current English learners. The rest can be teachers, administrators, community members, or other parents. You will need to submit a membership list with contact information for your official BPAC members on your bilingual service plan. There are 3 things that are mandatory for your BPAC to do, and on the bilingual service plan that you or someone in your district will fill out, you need to indicate when this is going to happen. The BPAC needs to review the bilingual service plan, the evidence-based funding expenditure report and the evidence-based funding plan, and the use of EL funds in the EL spending plan. The BPAC should also identify other topics of interest for discussion. This is at the bottom of the BPAC page in the bilingual service plan. And you can see the required activities are already there. We also provide you with 6 slots. You're only mandated to have 4 meetings, but if you'd like to have more than that, you're welcome to. And this is a plan. We know that not everything goes according to plan, but we want you to identify what other topics your BPAC is going to be discussing. throughout the year. So this particular district has had a meeting where they were going to talk about health and safety of students during the pandemic, how to support family during difficult times, and supporting students' academic progress. These are based on the needs of the BPAC, and the BPAC identified them as what they wanted to talk about. This wasn't the district going, oh, you're going to learn. Now, some suggestions. Official BPAC membership numbers should be kept manageable. If you have 30 or 50 official members of your BPAC, it's going to be really difficult to manage. The bilingual service plan form defaults to 10. BPAC meetings are open meetings. All parents of students in the TBE programs should be invited and encouraged to attend, not just your official membership. It takes a lot of effort to get a strong BPAC to develop, but once they're going, watch out. They can be amazing forces for good and amazing advocates for their students. And again, these two bottoms are linked, so when you get the actual PowerPoint, you'll be able to link to some rules and responsibilities and the EL program review process to help you with your BPAC. All right, I am going to transfer the clicker over to Penny, and she will talk about staffing. Yeah. All right. Here's the notes if you need them.
Okay. Thank you. I'm either glasses or a mask, right? One or the other. Some of you get that. All right. I wanted to just offer you, it's been an hour and a half. Stand up if your brain is fuzzy right now. No? Okay. I like to move around. So if you want to move around, if you want to stretch, take a little stretch break, you're more than welcome to. And we will get right on to staffing. I think I was supposed to do that after.
Oh, that's all right.
Okay.
Do we want to set a time? Stop. Yeah.
All right. Sorry.
We're going to take a break for 5 minutes.
That was our roundabout way.
Yeah.
That was overall, yeah.